that encounters conflicts and controversies. Okay? But before we go on to our lesson, let's have a review first of our previous lesson, which is the introduction to the midterm conflicts and controversies. Okay, so if you want to answer, kindly raise your hand only. Okay? Raise your hand, hindi nagsaniman? Okay. If you want to answer, just raise your hand. And if you want to participate, kindly submit your answers in a message diri sa tong chat box directed to me. Okay? Ay, di na lang mag-raise ng hand, mag-answer na lang kayo lahat dito sa chat box para lahat ay may participation. Okay, okay. So the first question, history is a construct. What does it mean? First question, history is a... Alright, so I will stop the answers with Miss Fantilaga. Okay? So, I'm gonna read your answers, but I will not mention. So, history is a construct where historians need evidences to make and construct a fact about history. Is that so? It is a construct because it is an ongoing process that makes in progress. That has a point. History is a construct because it is always open for interpretation, it develops and it changes. Okay, so most of you got the correct answer, and the correct answer for this one is history is a construct for it is always open for interpretation. So hindi natatapos ang pagsusulat at pag-aaral ng history because it does not stop with the evidences that we have at hand. No? So, it is an ongoing rediscovery of evidences. No? Not necessarily because it's a construction of our history, it builds up our history, but more of it is always open for an ongoing process. Okay? It is always in progress. Sabi nga na classmate ninyo, it always changes. It is always open for interpretation. So, yes, so we have second question pa. Okay, next question. Okay. What will more likely to happen? Okay. So, what will more likely to happen if the historian would omit some significant facts about their subject? Okay, what will more likely to happen if the historian omits significant facts about their subject? Okay. Okay, so let's give 5 seconds for you guys to send your answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kindly submit your answers. Okay, very good, no? Basahin ko may ibang answers dito na hindi natin na-expect. Okay, to be less reliable, pwede. The historians wouldn't be completed and there would be scarcity of evidences. These facts will give another way for us to study and understand the history of the past, it would be biased if chances are that their work will lose its credibility and factuality. Also, the readers will have wrong understanding of the history. The history will become vague and not clear. There might be speculations and false history that might be added, or there might be some of the important history that will not be counted or if it's omitted. Okay, and the list goes on. Okay, so let's start with the answers. So the answer for this one, it will make the historical interpretation imbalanced or not balanced, unbalanced, and will lead to confusion. And I believe your answers are close to the correct answer. Okay, so it will be reliable, it will be irrelevant. Okay, we don't have a strong understanding because there is confusion. Yeah. Okay, so very good, guys. So next, I think this is the second to the last one. Okay, second to the, yeah, I need, no, parang last to na, ini last na din. According to Geoffrey Baraclough, which is the basis of history. Saan base ang ating history? Is it multi-perspectivity, significant things about the past, interpretation, or fragmentary evidences? Are you sure? Sinabi ba yun ni Geoffrey Baraclough? Na letter A? Na letter B? Na letter C? Na letter D? Okay? So, okay, dear. Okay, so let's give the others to decide. 5 seconds to decide. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All answers, please. Okay, so the correct answer for this one, sorry, ay letter D. Di ba ano nga sabi ni Geoffrey Baraclough, our attempt to discover what the significant things about the past, yun yung history natin, are in the basis of fragmentary evidences. Okay, so, yes, no? Nag-answer dito ng yes. Okay, so, fragmentary evidences. So, though our history may encounter multi-perspectivity, our history are the significant things about the past. Mo yung history mismo ang significant things about the past. Our history should be interpreted, pero saan based? No? Saan based yung history natin? These are based in the fragmentary evidences or by the series of accepted judgments. No? So, ayun po. So, let me check if mayroon pa ako isang question. Ay, wala na akong question. So, thank you so much guys for answering. At least we know that you already have an idea or you have refreshed your lesson last meeting. Okay? Okay. So, before we go on to our lesson, can we have a short bladder break first? Okay, parang kailangan ko. Okay, so if you also need some break muna, 5 minutes lang, okay? Wait lang.
Daghan lagi ko ay dito. Dili na part.
So let me record this conference. So for our learning objectives, we will be guided by the following. At the end of the lesson, these are the things that you are expected to derive to. Number 1, to demonstrate an understanding of the historical context of the first cry of revolution. No, ibig sabihin, we are going to be mindful, no, and become familiar with the context ng first cry of revolution, given that this particular event in history has some sort of conflict and controversy. No, merong hindi clarified about the first cry of revolution. Second, to discuss the conflicts in the problematic areas of the first cry of revolution. So we have 3, no? And lastly is to explain an agreement to a chosen terminology, date, and venue of the first cry. But since the reading material was not yet given to you, no, as your um, as your week 3 topic for the midterm, so the thing that you're just gonna choose is the terminology. Nahingi mo na yung date at saka venue. Yung terminology mismo. Because if we have known the terminology, eventually we will derive to a date and venue of the first cry. So just an overview, no? Medyo challenging itong midterm natin na pag-aaralan about the certain events in Philippine history simply because in the prelim period, we only had the two choices, no? Is it a primary source or a secondary source? And choosing which is which, no, is kinda easy. No, easier siya compared dito sa pag-choose mismo ng mga primary sources sa midterm period. Kasi lahat po sila ay primary source. At sa pag-aaral po natin in the prelim period, we have learned that primary sources are more reliable than secondary sources. Now, our challenge is that all of them are primary sources. Now, all of them are primary sources, but they have different contents. Now, they have different arguments. So, wait lang, let me read here in my notes. Baka nawala na ako. Okay. But in this period, lahat po sila ay primary sources. Lahat po sila ay matatawag natin na reliable, but they are differing when it comes to their contents and the arguments of their contents. So it would be hard, no, for the readers, for the historian himself, to write the particular event in history, to write about the first cry of revolution if the primary sources that are available are very inconsistent, no, with their content. So ngayon, there is more than just reading history, no? We can assume that the task of merely studying the historical event is not only the limitation of studying history. No, hindi lang yung pag-study mismo sa event. Most of our history is written because there are accounts of eyewitnesses or participants of the specific events. This is where the problem comes in. In which account should we believe? No, dahil written nga siya lahat, no, and lahat po sila ay reliable, lahat po sila ay primary sources, lahat po sila ay eyewitness accounts. Which account should we believe? No, so that's the challenge when we study these events in history that faces conflicts and controversies. By the way, if you have missed out the lesson last time, the theme for the midterm topics, no, sa mga case study for the whole midterm is about conflicts and controversies. These are the events in the Philippine history that encounters inconsistency with recording, inconsistency with their data, no? Di ba naging seatwork niyo yun? So, sa seatwork ninyo last time, only few has already submitted. I think medyo mahaba pa rin yung deadline nun. So, I hope that you will comply on time. So, going back, sabi nga natin, you have given an assignment wherein you are asked to give an event in history that there is a problem with documentation, no? There is problem in inconsistencies in data. Okay? So hindi po yung may iba kasi na nag-submit sila, ang binigay nila sa akin, yung mga problema sa society, na hindi po yun, na you choose a particular event in history na nagkaroon sila ng conflict. Okay? Isa na dito yung first cry of revolution. Nagkaroon siya ng conflict kasi iba-iba yung mga sinasabi ng mga libro, iba-iba yung sinasabi ng mga primary sources patungkol sa isang event lang. Okay? So, as the saying and historical study goes, there is only one past but many histories. Thus, the controversies on and conflicting views of the events in the Philippine history still exist in dissipation. However, it does not detract from any form of historical sources by analyzing how perspectives are made in historical events. Okay, nagets niyo ba? Kasi binasa ko lang. Okay, so there is only one past but many histories. Thus, the controversies and the conflicting views went on and on and on. Okay? So, hindi isang source lang ang nag-prove as an evidence, no, marami po sila. Kaya siya tinawag na conflicting or controversy siya. Okay, so with that being said, let's get started. Sorry. Okay, so I have here a question. Can you chat here in our chat box now? What do you know about the unang sigaw? Unang sigaw sa blank or first cry of rebellion sa blank. Okay, so you answer that blank. Hindi siya tama correct answer ha. Tinatanong ko lang sa iyo kung ano yung tinuro sa inyo ng teachers ninyo before. Unang sigaw sa blank. Okay, so this is just a survey, no crowdsourcing. Unang sigaw sa blank. Okay. Unang sigaw sa balintawak. Unang sigaw sa pugadlawin. No, mayroon ba may question mark? You are not sure? Okay. Thank you so much for the answers. So may nag-answer ng mga pugadlawin, may nag-answer din naman na balintawak. Did you know that yung unang sigaw sa pugadlawin at yung unang sigaw sa balintawak, they are just referring to one event. Isang sigaw lang po ang nangyari. But why is it that there is differing Nueva Ecija? Okay, meron din Nueva Ecija dito. So there are conflicting data about where did the first cry happen. No, asan ba talaga nangyari ang unang sigaw? Okay, sa Balintawak, sa Nueva Ecija, sa Pugadlawin. No? So saan ba nangyari 'yon? So dalawa po yung venue na binibigay sa atin ng mga textbooks natin nung elementary at high school. Kaya ngayon, nung tinanong ko kayo, iba-iba din yung sagot ninyo. Kasi may mga books na nag-argue it is about the Pugadlawin. No? Also, some books argue about Balintawak. No? They are pro-Balintawak or pure pro-Pugadlawin. May isa din dito na Nueva Ecija. No? So, that's what you know about the unang sigaw. This is confusing, right? This is confusing and this is conflicting. Kaya naman pag-aaralan natin siya this morning. Na bakit kaya may ganong conflict? Disclaimer lang po, we are not meant to solve this problem. This problem is a Filipino concern, but we are not meant to solve this problem because even the historians consider this issue as a pending issue in the Philippine history. Pending pa lang siya. Kaya nga, di ba, sinabi natin history is a construct. It is always open for interpretation, especially because there are some certain events in history such as this one that needs for further interpretation, further research, further study. And we are waiting, for the rediscovery of a much stronger evidence that will prove to us if it's either Pugadlawin, Balintawak, Bahay Toro, Kangkong, or in any place in Caloocan City. Okay, wherein doon talaga nangyari ang first cry. So, yun po, disclaimer lang po, hindi po natin siya i-resolve na problema dito sa klase natin. Okay, so we'll go on to the historical context, but because we have only less than a minute, let me end this conference first, and let's return using the same link and the same meeting ID. Okay, so let me proceed. Okay, so we have here the historical context of the Philippine revolution, aka the first cry. So what is the first cry or unang sigaw? First cry po ang translation niya sa English, no? Sa Filipino naman ng mga storybooks, ang tawag nila ay unang sigaw. But when the Spanish writers wrote about our history, they call it as El Grito de Rebelión, or the cry of rebellion. So, for our historical context, Philippine Revolution of 1896 began with what later known as the first cry. So the first cry is not the literal na pagsigaw or literal na pag-iyak ng mga katipunero po natin. Yes po, it was led by our katipuneros, no, the KKK, headed by the Supremo Andres Bonifacio. So it was not the literal shouting or the literal cry, but the first cry of revolution is the initial move of the Filipinos to begin the revolution for Philippine independence. Independence po yan, nakulangan lang. Okay? For Philippine independence. Okay? Ito yung kanilang unang movement for the revolution. But we have some conflicts, no, with about the cry of revolution. Okay, it is hard for us to determine when did the revolution happen, where did the revolution happen, because there is also a problem with the terminologies and current state of knowledge of the cry, or what the cry means. Okay, because if we know what the cry means, these events have certain dates in Philippine history. No, they have certain dates and they have certain venues kung saan nangyari yung mga nakapaloob sa terminologies natin. Okay? So these are the three conflicts or the three problem areas ng first cry of revolution. So magsimula po tayo sa terminologies and current state of knowledge of the cry. So wag kayong maguluhan or ma-intimidate sa terminologies or the current state of knowledge. Is just that what does the cry means. Again, hindi po yung literal na cry ha, hindi po siya literal na pagsigaw. Okay, so there are four terminologies of the cry, but only one of these pertains what the cry really means. Okay, so is it the pasya? Is it the pagtitipon? Is it the pagpupunit? Or is it the unang labanan? So, only one of these, no, is the terminology of the cry, no? Kung ano ba talaga ibig sabihin ng cry. At lahat po ito, sabi ko kanina, yung pasya, mayroon siyang certain date, mayroon din siyang certain place, no, kung saan siya nangyari. Kaya, kung alam natin which among these four is the meaning of the cry, therefore, we may be able to identify the date and the venue as well. But because there is problem with identifying what cry means, no, there is also the problem of when and where did it happen. Kaya meron tayong dalawang venue, no? Dalawang venue ng Cry of Revolution, the Balintawak and the Pugadlawin, because the meaning of the cry was not yet, no, identified. Among all the primary sources natin, there is no certain evidence that declared that the Pasya was the initial movement for the revolution. Is it the pagtitipon? Is it the pagpupunit? Is it the unang labanan? Okay, so let's get started with the first one, the Pasya. Okay, the Pasya is the decision to revolt. Okay. So the decision to revolt, it is the part of the revolution when the Katipunan decided, no, to launch a revolution against the Spain. So yung pagpapasya ba nila na decide na sila na mag-revolt, is it the meaning of the first cry? Is it the initial move for revolution? Or is it the pagtitipon? Ano yung pagtitipon? It's when the Katipuneros meet no? They have proceeded to a designated meeting place outside the outside the poblasyon to decide on their next move. So nagtipon po sila or nagmeeting po sila after nilang mabuwag. Okay, alam naman natin kung bakit nabuwag ang Katipunan, di ba? So para sa mga hindi po nakakaalam, i-review ko na lang. So nabuwag po yung Katipunan simply because somebody from the group did not keep the secret. Okay? So, Katipunan, as we all know, was a secret society. It was a secret government. And there is a punishment na pinapato dun po sa mga hindi po makapag-keep ng kanilang secrets. Okay? So, keeping a secret is very important for the Katipuneros. But because of this Teodoro Patino, no? Teodoro Patino was a Katipunero who had an issue, no? Nagkaroon siya ng fight with a Katipunero as well. Okay, nagkaroon sila ng fight because Teodoro Patino was not given a fair sweldo daw, no? On the same level as that Katipunero. So that's one of the reasons why daw. Another naman na sinabi ng mga historians in some books na nabasa ko ay si Teodoro Patino nung nalaman niya na magre-revolt na daw ang mga Katipunero, no, nagplan na daw sila, he decided to go to his sister, I forget the name of his sister. Maria, I think it's Maria, no? So, nagado siya sa iyang sister in the convent because orphan naman gud sila. So, bata pa si Honoria, Honoria ang pangalan sa iyang sister, I remember, Honoria. And kaya siya, si Honoria, under ni siya sa pangangalaga sa mga madre o sa mga pare. And Teodoro Patino was afraid daw na that when the Katipunan will revolt, madadamay ang kanyang sister. So he told his sister about it. Then his sister, Honoria, told Mother Superior about it because she also cannot keep the secret. So Mother Superior, upon knowing about the Katipuneros, so she also reported that one to the parish priest, and then the parish priest immediately contact Mariano Hill. No, ang father pala kay si Father Mariano Hill. So he contacted the civil guards, no, para lusubin yung kampo ng mga Katipunero kung saan sila nagtatago. And that's where the Katipuneros were found. At doon po nabuwag yung Katipunan. Okay, doon po nabunyag ang Katipunan. At doon na, kahit hindi pa naman sana time nila para mag-revolt, no, they were forced to do the revolution agad-agad, no, earlier than the planned date, no, kasi ang plano talaga nila is April 29, no, pero napaaga ang kanilang pagtakas, ang kanilang mga actions because of the certain Katipunero who cannot keep secrets. Okay, so ayun po yung pagtitipon na nag-meet sila. So next is it the pagpupunit? Ano ba yung pagpupunit? So ito po yung sikat na scenario sa Cry of Revolution. It is yung pagpupunit ng sedula, no? Punitin ng mga sadula. At yun, pinunit nila kanilang mga sadula. So, ano ba yung significance ng sadula before? The sadula is a very important note, no? Maliit lang siya na papel, a piece of paper. It is a piece of paper signifying that the bearer was under the authority of the Spanish crown. Kaya hanggat nandyan ang sadula sa kanila, it will always signify that the Spaniards are in control of them. Okay? That the Spaniards are in control of the Filipinos. So, as a proof of determination to break away from Spain, the Katipuneros have torn up their cedula. So there was a reason why people hated the cedula. It restricts their movement from one town to another. Sinadya talaga ng mga Espanyol ang cedula because it's a win-win situation for them. Number one, there is residence tax in cedula. So they can collect money from the people. Secondly, yung cedula, it will control the movement of people. Para natin siyang CCTS ngayon. No? You cannot go to the mall, you cannot go from one town to another without your CCTS or your tapat code. Right? So it controls the movement of people. Pero yung sa panahon naman natin ngayon, it's for our own security. Pero in their time, is the control of people so that it will lessen the chance of revolution. Okay? So yung mga tao, hindi sila basta-basta mag-class in the government kasi hindi naman sila nakakatipon. Okay? But the katipuneros, they found their way to meet each other, to gather, no? So, hindi po pwede ang gathering before kasi it may lead to revolution. Okay. So when the Katipuneros, nagkaroon sila ng pagpupunit, no, they symbolically breaking their ties to the Spanish monarch. And lastly, the unang labanan. Ito yung unang labanan ay yung unang encounter with the Spanish forces. Dito na nagkaroon sila ng war, no, Philippine versus the Spaniards. So, all of these events, no, are a product of the long debate because of the lack of consensus on what is meant by the first cry. Okay, so these terms were applied to pasya, pagtitipon, pagpupunit, and unang labanan. Okay, so many of the older sources of the cry do not say precisely which event they mean. So yung sa readings po natin, no, i-upload po, ililink ko na lang po siya kasi i-upload ko pala siya kasi document siya. So, lahat po ng primary sources na meron tayo, even yung mga newer ones, there is no precise description of what cry is, but it all revolves in this four terminologies. So the problem is so embedded in the literature that it is impossible to eradicate totally what cry means, but wherever practicable, these notes will avoid the contested na cry word and will seek instead to specify which distinct event is being discussed. Is it the pasya, pagtitipon, pagpupunit, or the unang labanan? Okay, so dyan lang po sa apat na yan, nagre-revolve. Ano ba yung sabihin ng first cry? No? So, clear po ba? Dahil hindi nga daw precise yung pag-define ng cry of revolution sa mga primary sources natin. That's why we only assume that it's either one of the four mentioned, no, na mga terminologies. Yun lang po yung ibig sabihin ng cry. That's why for your seat work tomorrow, for your asynchronous class, you will choose one among these four. Which do you think is the terminology of the cry, no? Which you strongly believe to be the terminology of what the cry means. Alright? So, ayun, dahil ba iba-iba tayong ibig sabihin ng cry, mayroon din po tayong iba't ibang dates. No? Mayroon tayong iba't ibang dates ng cry of revolution. So, it could be 23, no? Kung saan sila pumunta sa mga bahay, sa isang bahay, or nag-meeting ba sila doon? Is it in 24th of August na nag-start ang kanilang meeting? No, kasi nag-start ang meeting August 23. Tapos, sobrang lengthy niya daw. Naabutan siya ng August 24. So, is it August 25? No? Or August 26? So, it just ranges from those dates. But, more than that, no, is the venue of the cry of revolution. So, dito sa venue of the cry, aside from iba-iba yung meaning natin ng cry natin, iba't iba din sila na place nangyari. The Caloocan City kasi, municipality kasi siya dati. No, same as true with Manila. Yes po, ang Quezon City, tsaka ang Manila, municipality po sila before, no? Hindi pa po sila ganun ka-industrialized when we were colonized. Same as true with Caloocan. So, Caloocan City has this big barangays, no? Big barangays or mga purok. We have Balintawak, Bahay Toro, Pugadlawin, Kangkong, Bagong Bantay, nadoble na kung Bahay Toro. Pero mayroon pang iba talaga. Mayroon pang iba sila ng mga purok na close kung asa sila nagkandak at unang pagpipon sa pasya, pagpupunit at saka unang labanan. But it was not eradicated or it was not specified, no, kung saan talaga siya nangyari. Okay. So, the barrios, hamlets, and farmsteads where the revolution began were all within the municipality of Caloocan. So, it was large but sparsely inhabited. Ibig sabihin, hindi dikit-dikit yung tahanan ng mga tao doon. So, the doubt about the exact site could be put aside. According to Ambeto Campos, nagsuggest siya na pwede cry of Caloocan na lang, hindi na lang cry of Balintawak or Pugadlawin, no? Kasi it will just give us confusion. No? Pwede naman magganon, but need to give value, manggod, with being specific, no? Yun naman talaga ang goal ng history. As possible, we need to be specific to give honor to that place, no? Kung saan ba talaga nangyari ang first cry of revolution. So, mayroon po tayong mga rason kung bakit po hindi hindi ko pala nilagay dito. Okay, mayroon po tayong mga rason kung bakit po hindi nagkaroon ng clear na venue ang first cry of revolution aside sa iba tayo ng terminologies. Number one, there was no maps that were existing, not really available because baka meron talagang available, but walang na-found na maps that will give us the sketch of the previous, no, na itsura ng Caloocan City, because Caloocan City has now changed, no. The inhabitants were also changed, the people has changed, some people, they're already the new generation, yung mga matatanda noon na nabuhay nung panahon ng mga katipuneros, hindi na sila makaalala, no? So, yari na talaga sila, yung iba sa kanila namatay na. So, there were only very few inhabitants in Caloocan City that can still remember the former face, no, the former na itsura ng Caloocan City. No, kung saan ba talaga nakalagay ang Balintawak before, saan ba itong Pugadlawin dati, saan ba itong Kangkong dati. No, there were no signages that were available, no, that were existing. At saka terrain siya, tsaka mountainous siya, no, hindi siya patag po, no, na lugar. Kaya yung division ng lands, hindi rin po siya clear, no? So, that's also one of the reasons why there is variations or there is differing accounts into where did they go. No, if you would read the readings na ibibigay ko sa inyo after this day, kasi mahaba pa yung klase ko, no? Yung mga readings. So, kung mabasa niyo po doon, pumunta sila sa isang bahay para magpahinga, no? At pinakain daw po sila doon. Okay, pinakain sila doon. Pero, kaninong bahay yon, no? If the pagpupulong was also conducted there, no? Doon sa bahay na yun kung saan sila nanuluyan. Okay? So, kung saan sila pinakain. Ngayon, if doon nangyari ang first cry, if doon nangyari ang pagpupunit, no? Doon din po nangyari ang pagpupulong, then where is that place, no? Where is that is now? Bakit hindi na lang yun ang gawin nating reference about the first cry? Kasi halos lahat naman ng terminologies natin doon nangyari. And the problem here is that sa mga primary sources po na meron tayong tatlo. Sa primary sources po natin nandun, iba-iba sila nang sinasabi kung kaninong bahay talaga yun. May nagsabi na it was bahay of Juan Ramos, may nagsabi na ito ay kay Melchor Aquino, may nagsabi na ito ay kay Apollonia Samson. So, kaninong bahay ba talaga sila pumunta para magkain? Okay? Para mag-meeting, para magpunit ng sadula. Okay? Para mag-decide to revolt. Okay? Saan ba talaga una nangyari ang labanan? Okay? So, there was differing accounts, no? They were also differing with the people, no, that they are mentioning, no, with the location kung saan sila pumunta. Okay? So, that's the challenge to our historians, no? Challenging talaga because they only have fragmentary evidences as their basis in writing history, no? No other than that, no? There were no more eyewitness accounts that may have survived up to this day that maybe, no, give us a narrative as clearly as he can remember, no? Pero sobrang tanda na kasi nila at sobrang tagal na po nito. Okay? So, those are the three conflicts and controversy sa Philippine, the first year of Philippine Revolution. Kaya, it is very important to specify ba, no? Because it will cost a lot to our country, no? So, I have here two of the reasons, no? Dalawang mababigat na rason kung bakit kailangan nating maging careful, no? Kailangan nating maging well documented sa ating history, okay? So, that is why there is multiple monuments. No, ito po yung reason. There are multiple monuments erected to commemorate the believed venues of the cry of revolution. So because limited the evidences at hand, 1911, no, in 1911, Balintawak was celebrated to be the venue of the first cry of revolution. That's why the National Historical Commission had erected, no, they have erected a monument in Balintawak, no, and celebrated it every 26th of August, no. So every 26th of 1968. 1968. Tama ba ako? Ito ba yung nauna? Okay, ito pala yung nauna. Okay, so, they have celebrated since 1911 until yung new erection kay Nabilcha, the whole country celebrated a national holiday commemorating that it was really in Balintawak, no, Heroes of 1896. So, national holiday pa rin yan. Pero ngayon sa panahon natin, hindi na natin sinaselebrate siya. Instead, in August 30, every August 30 tayo nagsaselebrate ng National Heroes Day. Hindi na about sa first cry of revolution. Okay? Hindi na natin yung sinaselebrate because some of the veterans, no, living that time, kung kailan na-erect yung first na monument kanina, they argue that it was not in Balintawak, it was in Pugatlawin that we did the first cry of revolution, sabi ng mga veterans. And the National Historical Commission of the Philippines also subjected to further interpretation itong event in history natin. That's why they also came up with considering Pugadlawin as a venue of the first cry of revolution. You see, it has cost us a lot of not just money or fund, but also confusion for the next generation. That why is it, unang sigaw happened in two different places. No, one in Pugadlawin and the other one is in Balintawak. Okay, so dalawa po yung monuments na naka-erect ngayon sa Caloocan City commemorating the first cry. Okay, that's why we need to be careful, no, with how we document things. Okay, there should be accuracy in there so that it would be, we would avoid confusion. Okay, in our primary sources, some of our sources have omitted significant facts about the event. That's why there is imbalance, no, in the story. No? Okay, so ito po yung consequence natin. This is the application of what we have discussed in our lesson last week. Okay, so first case study pa lang po ito. Meron pa po tayong remaining na case studies. Okay, so para matapos na tayo ng maaga. Anyways, sige, tapusin natin ito ng maaga. Okay, so here we have the value, no? The significance already. So what, no? Anong significance nito when we pursue this matter, no? Why do we still need to pursue this event in the Philippine history na nangyayari na naman siya, no? Pero it's just that there is a pending conflict and controversy. So where and when did the cry of revolution happen, as well as to what really is meant by the first cry. So according to Professor Nicolas Zafra of the University of the Philippines, settling the problem would redound to the credit, honor, and glory of our historical scholarship in our country. Ibig sabihin, mawawalan po ng saysay ang pagsusulat ng kasaysayan. No? Ang kasaysayan po, sa gitna po niya na word, no, sa gitna ng word na yun, merong word na saysay. Okay, so I think that talks heavy, no? So, mawawalan ng saysay ang pagsusulat ng kasaysayan if we will just rely on the very inconsistent, if we would just rely on unconfirmed data about our history. The official history demands precise dates to commemorate and exact dates to commemorate and exact places to mark the certain events. No, our historians would feel uneasy, no, that decades of debate have not yet produced any clear answers. So pinpointing the cry is a challenge that they have yet not met, no? Kasi nakalagay dito ba have failed to meet, but I don't think they have failed to meet them. It's just that they have not yet meet them. Okay? So, yeah, I think Professor Nicolas Zafra is very right that even if the detail of the cry of revolution might seem insignificant for most of us, no, hindi naman ito naapektuhan ang buhay natin sa ngayon. Hindi naman siya nakakapekto sa ekonomiya natin. But yes, it may be seemed as pointless and unprofitable. Hindi naman uunlad ang ating bansa kapag nalaman natin kung saan, kailan, at ano ba ibig sabihin ng First Cry Revolution. But when you pursue this matter, the historical profession is challenged, no? It is their duty to ensure the facts of the public history as accurate and as humanly as possible, no? Para bigyan ng saysay ang kasaysayan. Okay, so for our primary sources, ito po yung mga primary sources na gagamitin natin, no, for next week na lesson. So, the primary sources are Pio Valenzuela's account, Guillermo Masangkay's account, and Santiago Alvarez's account. Okay, so it will be uploaded ahead of time before second week, no, para may time kayo magbasa. Okay, para pag nag-discuss tayo, madali na sa inyo para intindihin. Hindi yung kailangan pa naman kayong hintayin na matapos yung basahin yung primary sources natin. Okay, so you read ahead of time the primary sources and you will discover na iba-iba pala talaga sila ng sinasabi. Iisang points lang yung mga nila, yung isang point lang pinupunto nila is about the first cry. Pero at saka pare-pareho yung mga events na sinasabi nila, no? Similar events pero iba-iba yung data, no? Same event pero iba yung date, iba yung venue. Okay? Okay, so that ends my lesson for this morning. Do you have any question, guys, that you wanted to clarify or hindi ninyo take note? Mayroon ba kayong mga questions na hindi ninyo na-take note? Or gusto nyong erase na question about our lesson? Okay, if none, okay, that's great. Wait lang.